Why do 65% of adults over age 60 suddenly experience severe bloating, cramps, and digestive distress within 30 minutes of drinking a single glass of milk? Most doctors dismiss these sudden midlife symptoms as a brand new dairy allergy, but the conventional medical explanation is completely wrong and scientifically impossible for your immune system. Your immune system is not attacking milk proteins at all, and wasting $200 on commercial allergy testing will only send you down a frustrating diagnostic dead end. The real culprit is a silent cellular decline inside your small intestine, and mastering this exact enzymatic mechanism will transform how you nourish your body after 60. If you want the unfiltered medical science behind healthy longevity and gut metabolism without the pharmaceutical hype, subscribe to the channel right now. And let's get right into it. Every single time you consume dairy, your digestive tract must process lactose, which is a complex molecular sugar constructed by bonding one glucose molecule directly to one galactose molecule. Think of pure lactose as two tightly linked steel freight cars on a railroad track that cannot pass through the narrow gates of your intestinal lining until separated. To break that tough chemical coupling, specialized cells along your intestinal border manufacture a precision biological cutting tool, an indispensable digestive enzyme simply known as lactase. During infancy and early adulthood, your enterocytes produce high levels of this enzyme, effortlessly splitting 20 grams of lactose per meal into absorbable simple sugars within 60 seconds. Consider Robert, a 62-year-old retired engineer from Ohio, who drank whole milk every morning for 40 years without ever feeling a single stomach rumble. Then, right after his 61st birthday, Robert ate a standard bowl of ice cream and spent the entire night curled in agony with severe abdominal cramping and bloating. Robert did not suddenly develop an allergy overnight. Instead, his cellular machinery reached a genetically programmed threshold known in medical physiology as primary lactase non-persistence. Human genetic coding contains a specific regulatory switch above the LCT gene that slowly turns off lactase synthesis after childhood, but individual epigenetic clocks run at entirely different speeds. For adults like Robert, that enzyme production steadily drops by roughly 10% per decade, finally hitting a critical biological tipping point around age 60, where total capacity collapses. Without sufficient lactase to split the molecules, intact lactose rushes straight past your small intestine and plunges directly into the dark, oxygen-depleted environment of your colon. Inside your large intestine, roughly 38 trillion resident bacteria immediately feast on that undigested sugar, initiating a violent chemical fermentation process that generates massive volumes of gas. These hungry colon microbes rapidly churn out hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and highly inflammatory methane gas, ballooning your intestinal walls outward like an overinflated car tire within 40 minutes. Simultaneously, those unbonded sugar molecules exert a powerful osmotic pull, dragging up to 1 liter of fluid directly from your bloodstream into the bowel lumen to cause urgent diarrhea. This purely mechanical enzyme failure is completely different from a true dairy allergy, where your white blood cells mistakenly weaponize IgE antibodies to attack milk proteins like casein. If you confuse this enzymatic deficit with a protein allergy, doctors often prescribe expensive elimination diets or inappropriate medications while totally ignoring the underlying degradation of your brush border. That delicate brush border consists of millions of microscopic cellular projections called microvilli, which physically anchor every remaining lactase enzyme directly at the tips of their mucosal folds. After 60, decades of minor gut infections, chronic low-grade inflammation, and routine prescription NSAID use physically erode and flatten these microvilli, stripping away your surviving enzyme reserves. When Robert suffered a mild 3-day bout of viral gastroenteritis right before turning 62, that brief infection completely destroyed his final 12% of functioning microvilli. Because your gut compensates until enzyme activity drops below 12%, Robert's loss felt like an overnight allergy when it was actually 40 years in the making. Terrified of another painful night, Robert threw out every dairy product in his refrigerator, but complete avoidance triggers a dangerous secondary crisis for aging bones and muscle mass. When adults over 60 eliminate dairy entirely without understanding the enzyme math, their daily bioavailable calcium intake plummets by 60%, rapidly accelerating osteopenia and severe muscle loss. However, abandoning your favorite foods is completely unnecessary because different dairy products contain vastly different molecular concentrations of lactose depending on how they are aged and fermented. While an 8-ounce glass of milk packs 12 grams of lactose, one serving of aged cheddar cheese contains less than 0.1 grams through natural bacterial fermentation. Furthermore, traditional fermented kefir contains live cultures like Lactobacillus acidophilus that actually release external lactase right inside your stomach, doing 90% of the digestive work for you. Yet even if you choose low lactose foods, consuming them at the wrong time of day or alongside refined seed oils will still shut down your remaining digestive capacity. To see why your enzymes suddenly vanish after 60, we must zoom right into your intestinal wall. Your small bowel is lined with microscopic, finger-like projections called microvilli. These fragile microvilli form your brush border, the exact cellular factory where lactase is manufactured. But as cellular senescence accelerates in your 60s, stem cell turnover drastically slows down. Without rapid cellular replacement, those microvilli lose their height and density. When lactose arrives, your diminished enzyme factory cannot snip the tight chemical bond between glucose and galactose. Because that stubborn sugar bond remains unbroken, intact lactose cannot cross the intestinal wall into your bloodstream. Instead, it slides straight into your colon like a ticking biological bomb. Inside the colon, unabsorbed lactose creates a powerful osmotic sink. Like a chemical sponge, it pulls nearly 4 times its weight in water right out of your surrounding tissue. That sudden rush of fluid into the lower bowel explains your explosive, urgent diarrhea. Simultaneously, resident colonic bacteria discover a massive feast of uncleaved dairy sugar waiting for them. Hungry microbes rapidly ferment the sugar, churning out short-chain fatty acids alongside massive volumes of hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane gas within just 30 to 90 minutes. As trapped gas rapidly expands your colon like an overinflated balloon, it stretches sensitive enteric nerve fibers. That intense stretching triggers acute visceral pain and severe abdominal cramping. Why does this strike suddenly at 60? The answer lies in an epigenetic master switch called LCT, which naturally silences lactase gene expression as we get older. Decades of gradual DNA methylation progressively lock up the promoter region upstream on chromosome 2. Over time, your intestinal stem cells simply stop transcribing the instructions to build lactase. This age-related decline stays hidden until an acute stressor breaks the camel's back. A single round of broad-spectrum antibiotics at age 62 can permanently destroy your remaining enzyme buffer. Even a mild bout of food poisoning causes acute brush border shearing. Inflammatory cytokines physically shear off the delicate microvilli tips where your few surviving lactase enzymes reside exclusively. When seniors rush to the doctor suspecting a new dairy allergy, standard blood pricks checking for IgE antibodies come back completely negative every single time. Because your immune system is not involved, expensive allergy panels miss the enzyme deficit completely. Doctors frequently misdiagnose this late-onset enzyme death as irritable bowel syndrome or diverticular disease. To master this, you must understand the dairy matrix. Drinking 8 ounces of liquid skim milk rapidly dumps 12 grams of lactose straight into your small bowel. Contrast that rapid liquid rush with eating a slice of aged cheddar cheese. High milk fat slows gastric emptying significantly, giving your scarce enzymes double the time to act. There is an extra complication after age 60 involving gastric acid. Declining parietal cell output means you produce far less acid to properly unfold complex dairy proteins like casein. That hypochlorhydria also allows opportunistic oral bacteria to colonize the upper duodenum. These misplaced microbes ferment intact lactose before your own brush border enzymes can even attempt digestion. Furthermore, your brush border produces diamine oxidase alongside lactase. When microvilli degrade, dropping enzyme levels simultaneously compromise histamine clearance, triggering systemic headaches and facial flushing after eating dairy. Panicked by sudden gut agony, seniors typically drop every single dairy product overnight. This sudden dietary elimination creates a severe calcium deficit right when age-related osteopenia threatens bone density. You might eliminate milk but still suffer severe cramping from stealth lactose bombs. Pharmaceutical manufacturers use lactose as an inexpensive binding excipient in over 20% of prescription capsules. Why do over-the-counter lactase pills frequently fail when you take them? Because harsh gastric juices can denature up to 40% of those enzyme units inside your stomach. Swallowing a $20 enzyme tablet 20 minutes before your meal is another fatal error. The digestive pill empties into your small bowel early, missing the dairy chyme completely. We also have to examine the A1 versus A2 protein distinction. Conventional A1 milk releases the inflammatory BCM7 opioid peptide during digestion, directly suppressing local brush border lactase production. Some alternative practitioners urge seniors to drink unpasteurized raw milk for natural enzymes. That is biological nonsense. Bovine raw milk contains 0 active human lactase to cleave milk sugar. Instead of risking bacterial infections with raw dairy, turn to your gut microbiome. Beneficial strains like Bifidobacterium animalis produce their own bacterial beta-galactosidase right inside your intestinal lumen. By consuming live culture fermented dairy, you recruit living microbial helpers to digest lactose for you. Authentic 24-hour kefir destroys up to 90% of milk sugar during fermentation. When you swallow genuine kefir or traditional Greek yogurt, millions of live lactic acid bacteria survive stomach acid. They actively continue breaking down residual lactose inside your small intestine. This microfermentation strategy acts as a natural, continuous enzyme replacement therapy. Your gut gets vital calcium and bioactive peptides without the catastrophic osmotic swelling or methane gas explosions. Before choosing any protocol, you need to map your exact remaining enzyme capacity. Next, we will perform a precise at-home titration challenge using a simple digital kitchen scale. When uncleaved lactose bypasses your small intestine, it drops directly into the colon like a sugar bomb hitting a dark, crowded bacterial jungle. Because lactose is an osmotic sugar molecule, it acts like a powerful sponge, pulling fluids directly across the intestinal membrane into your gut lumen. That sudden rush of excess water swells the intestinal wall, triggering those loud gurgling sounds and setting up the inevitable watery diarrhea 30 minutes later. Meanwhile, billions of colonic bacteria gorge on that unabsorbed sugar, rapidly fermenting it into massive volumes of hydrogen, methane, and carbon dioxide gas. This rapid gas expansion stretches your colon nerves to their breaking point, causing intense abdominal cramps that feel eerily similar to acute food poisoning. You might wonder why this explosive digestive crisis hits right around age 60, instead of developing gradually over your earlier adult decades. The human body possesses a biological buffer allowing you to lose 90% of your youthful lactase activity without suffering any noticeable clinical symptoms. But right around your 60th birthday, your remaining lactase reserves cross below that 10% survival threshold, causing your digestive compensation mechanisms to abruptly fail. To make matters worse, age 60 also brings a 30% drop in stomach acid output, allowing opportunistic colonic microbes to migrate upward into the small intestine. When these displaced bacteria encounter incoming milk sugars in the upper gut, they begin fermenting right under your ribcage within minutes of swallowing. This hidden bacterial overgrowth explains why drinking a $4 gallon of skim milk can trigger instant distress while aged cheddar cheese causes zero issues. Lactase enzymes only work on the watery whey fraction where lactose sugars dissolve, meaning zero-fat dairy products are concentrated liquid sugar bombs. Without dietary fat to slow down your gastric emptying rate, those skim dairy fluids rush into your small intestine at twice the normal speed. That rapid-fire dumping floods your few surviving enterocyte enzymes all at once, overwhelming their cleavage capacity completely and guaranteeing severe evening bloating. Conversely, when you consume heavy cream or butter, the high fat content holds food in your stomach, giving your remaining lactase enzymes crucial extra processing time. But lactose sugar is only half of the story behind why over 20% of seniors suddenly cannot tolerate American grocery store cow milk. Most conventional United States dairy herds produce A1 beta-casein, a protein variant that breaks down into a pro-inflammatory peptide known as casomorphin 7. When casomorphin 7 binds to opioid receptors in your aged intestinal lining, it slows digestion to a crawl and sparks localized mucosal inflammation. That localized inflammatory reaction acts like sandpaper on your intestinal microvilli, physically destroying the very brush border structures required to manufacture new lactase enzymes. This explains why switching to A2 milk from heritage cow breeds often completely resolves bloating in 60-year-olds who thought their enzyme production was permanently dead. Yet millions of older Americans turn straight to over-the-counter enzyme pills, spending more than $100 annually on supplements that frequently fail. The primary reason those expensive enzyme capsules let you down comes down to a fundamental error in dosage timing and stomach acid dynamics. If you swallow a lactase tablet 20 minutes before eating, your gastric acid completely denatures and destroys the fragile enzyme structure before food arrives. For exogenous enzymes to survive gastric churning and successfully split milk sugars, you must take at least 9,000 units with your very first bite. And if your meal lasts longer than 30 minutes, that initial pill dose washes out, requiring a second exact dose to protect your colon. But continuously buying synthetic enzyme tablets is a band-aid solution that never addresses the biological decay happening along your intestinal mucosal lining. The ultimate therapeutic goal for anyone over 60 is to re-establish an internal microbial ecosystem capable of digesting complex dairy carbohydrates autonomously. Specific live probiotic strains like Bifidobacterium longum actively produce their own bacterial beta-galactosidase right inside your intestinal tract without harming your delicate human cells. By consuming 2 ounces of traditional fermented kefir daily, you introduce living bacterial armies that can break down 70% of incoming milk sugars. This microbial colonization takes some pressure off your aging brush border, preventing those painful osmotic water shifts, while allowing your intestinal lining to finally heal. Lactase enzyme production declines 50% by age 60, affecting dairy digestion. This decrease sparks undigested lactose fermentation in the gut. Fermentation produces gas, causing bloating and discomfort. Symptoms worsen as enzyme levels continue to drop with age. Some people experience a 90% reduction in lactase activity by age 70. This drastic decline can lead to severe digestive issues. The small intestine's ability to absorb nutrients is also impaired. Malabsorption of essential vitamins and minerals becomes a concern. Vitamin D and calcium deficiencies are common in lactose-intolerant adults. Weakened bones and increased osteoporosis risk follow. The gut microbiome plays a crucial role in lactose digestion and overall health. An imbalance of gut bacteria exacerbates lactose intolerance symptoms. Probiotics and prebiotics can help restore balance and alleviate issues. Certain probiotic strains enhance lactase enzyme production and activity. Lactobacillus and bifidobacterium species show promise in clinical trials. Supplementation with these strains may improve lactose tolerance. Dietary adjustments such as reducing lactose intake can also help manage symptoms. Gradually introducing lactose-containing foods can help the gut adapt. Some individuals may need to adopt a lactose-free diet for relief. Lactase enzyme supplements can provide temporary symptom relief. These supplements contain purified lactase enzyme from yeast or bacteria. Taking supplements before consuming lactose can aid digestion. However, supplements may not address underlying enzyme decline or gut imbalance. A comprehensive approach addressing diet, gut health, and enzyme support is necessary. Consulting a healthcare professional can help determine the best course of action. They can assess individual needs and recommend personalized solutions. With proper guidance, many people can manage lactose intolerance and maintain a balanced diet. A well-informed approach can significantly improve quality of life. By understanding the mechanisms behind lactose intolerance, we can take control of our digestive health. Empowered with knowledge, we can make informed decisions for a healthier, happier life. To rebuild your gut's dwindling enzyme capacity without cutting dairy entirely, we must first exploit a fascinating biological loophole called microbial predigestion. When milk undergoes traditional fermentation, living bacteria systematically dismantle the complex disaccharide bonds your aging brush border microvilli can no longer cleave. In hard cheeses aged for 24 months like authentic Parmigiano Reggiano, natural enzymatic action eliminates over 98% of all residual lactose molecules. This means your remaining intestinal lactase enzymes can effortlessly process a 2-ounce slice of aged cheddar without triggering osmotic diarrhea or painful gas. Beyond lactose, we must address the specific amino acid mutation at position 67 in modern cow's milk where histidine replaces proline. That single genetic switch creates A1 beta-casein, which your digestive juices cleave into an inflammatory peptide known as beta-casomorphin 7 during digestion. This peptide docks onto opioid receptors along your intestinal lining, paralyzing peristaltic contractions and trapping undigested dairy sugars right where fermenting bacteria thrive. Switching to A2 dairy sourced from sheep, goats, or heritage cattle completely prevents this inflammatory paralysis, protecting your vulnerable enterocytes from localized swelling. If you still need exogenous enzyme supplements, cheap drugstore pills usually fail because gastric acid destroys them before they reach your small intestine. You must select an acid-stable, enteric-coated lactase formulation delivering a minimum of 9,000 FCC units per serving to guarantee precise molecular cleavage. Taking that capsule exactly 15 minutes prior to your first bite ensures the exogenous enzymes thoroughly mix with gastric chyme before entering the duodenum. Another clinical trick involves combining dairy with 15 grams of healthy dietary fat, like extra virgin olive oil, to intentionally slow gastric emptying. Delaying transit time gives your limited brush border enzymes double the contact window to break lactose down into absorbable glucose and galactose monosaccharides. Simultaneously, seeding your lower GI tract with specific keystone probiotic strains like Bifidobacterium animalis builds a powerful secondary backup digestive system right in your colon. These beneficial colonic microbes actively secrete bacterial beta-galactosidase, cleanly digesting up to 12 grams of escaped dairy carbohydrates without generating bloating hydrogen gas. To permanently rehabilitate your aging enterocytes, we implement a 4-week mucosal structural repair protocol focused on rebuilding damaged microvilli from the ground up. Dosing 3 grams of pure L-glutamine powder daily provides direct nitrogen fuel to upregulate zonular occludens proteins, rapidly tightening permeable intestinal barrier junctions. Pairing L-glutamine with 75 milligrams of chelated zinc carnosine stimulates enterocyte turnover every 72 hours, replacing senescent cells with fresh, enzyme-secreting replacements. Ignoring this repair phase and blindly stripping all dairy out of your life after 60 accelerates age-related bone mineral density loss and muscle wasting. Instead, secure bioavailable calcium and vitamin K2 by consuming 24-hour fermented goat kefir, where active yeast cultures completely digest the offending milk sugars beforehand. Once mucosal healing begins, follow our 14-day dairy reintroduction ladder designed to gently stimulate endogenous lactase production without triggering an immune flare-up. Days 1 through 4 require just 2 tablespoons of clarified organic grass-fed ghee, which contains 0 parts per million of lactose or whey proteins. Pure ghee delivers concentrated butyrate straight to your colonic epithelium, suppressing mucosal interleukins and lowering overall gut sensitivity within 96 hours. On day 5, introduce exactly 1 ounce of raw, aged Pecorino sheep cheese to test your revitalized brush border enzymatic capacity under mild load. Track your specific 90-minute postprandial window closely, watching for subtle physiological cues like a slight elevation in resting pulse or early abdominal cramping. A sudden heart rate spike right after eating reveals persistent low-grade mucosal inflammation rather than lactose overload, indicating you need more intestinal repair time. By day 10, add half a cup of cultured A2 cottage cheese, paired with 5 sprays of organic gentian root digestive bitters on your tongue. The intense bitter compounds instantly activate vagus nerve pathways, commanding your pancreas to flush abundant enzymes and bicarbonate directly into the duodenum. Investing just $12 a month on targeted repair and digestive bitters completely eliminates the need for $400 food sensitivity panels that misdiagnose enzyme fatigue. Once your brush border fully recovers its biological resilience, we must examine the unexpected nutrient combination that keeps your restored mucosal wall young indefinitely. To bypass depleted enterocytes instantly, add liquid lactase drops directly into your milk 20 hours before drinking to pre-hydrolyze those complex dairy sugars safely. This external incubation breaks every stubborn beta-glycosidic bond right inside the container, turning indigestible lactose into rapidly absorbed glucose and galactose before your first sip. Next, upgrade your cheese selection by swapping fresh soft varieties for hard-aged Gouda or Parmesan that have undergone at least 2 years of fermentation. During that long aging window, beneficial lactic acid bacteria consume 90% of the residual milk sugar, leaving behind 0 inflammatory triggers for your digestive tract. When choosing liquid dairy, liquid whey is a minefield, but traditional fermented kefir delivers live microbial strains that actively secrete beta-galactosidase straight into your gut lumen. Start by sipping exactly 2 fluid ounces of that kefir alongside lunch each day to feed your resident bifidobacteria without overwhelming your remaining intestinal enzyme output. Those thriving microbes produce butyrate, a potent short-chain fatty acid that repairs cellular damage and strengthens the delicate brush border of your aging intestinal lining. This enzymatic strategy solves the post-60 calcium crisis, allowing bioavailable dairy minerals to absorb smoothly without causing vascular calcification or terrible abdominal distress. To ensure that dietary calcium enters porous bone matrix rather than arterial walls, always pair high-fat fermented cheeses with 50 micrograms of active vitamin K2. Financially, spending $15 on liquid enzyme drops and real kefir completely avoids paying $1,200 for fraudulent food allergy testing or useless restrictive elimination diets. Within 14 days, track your progress using simple abdominal girth measurements after meals to confirm that gut fermentation gas has dropped to absolute 0. You are not allergic to dairy after 60. By replacing dying intestinal lactase and embracing fermented options, you permanently stop post-meal bloating and restore longevity. Hit like for real gut science, comment which fermented dairy you will try first, and subscribe today. Next up, why daily magnesium secretly destroys your stomach acid.